This is Tyler O'Neill, a managing editor at the Daily Signal. I am honored to be joined by Lora Ries, who is the director of the Border Security and Immigration Studies Center at the Heritage Foundation. She also has a portfolio and expertise in Secret Service, and all things DHS. Lora, so great to have you with us.
Well, thanks, Tyler, for having me on.
Unfortunately, I'm having you on because of really horrifying news we had yesterday on Sunday. We heard of a second attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, this time while he was on the golf course. And this raises a host of questions as to why the suspected shooter, the suspected attempt, the man who's now in custody, knew where Trump was and was ready. I mean, from what I understand, he was one hole away. He was a hole ahead of Trump's schedule when the shots were fired. He got apprehended, but there was a realistic chance that Trump would be in his line of sight right before when it happened. And that raises serious questions about Secret Service and the security that Trump had.
Yes, the reports are this was a rather spontaneous golf outing. Now, yes, Donald Trump golfs frequently and often on the weekends. And so a bit of the spontaneousness of his schedule is perhaps not hard to predict. But at the same time, this was considered a OTR, off the record, for Secret Service, which means it wasn't planned well in advance. It wasn't published. And so that raises the question of, how did this shooter know? And how did he know where to set up? And the pictures we're seeing, it took some time to set up his position. He had a camera set up to apparently record it. He had some metal plates set up along the fence to help perhaps deflect any incoming fire at him. So he prepared. How did he get this information? From who? That's one of the most immediate questions that needs to be answered within the Secret Service or Trump's inner circle. Is there someone who is leaking out his very short-term travel and plans?
And how many failures do you see in this particular incident on behalf of Secret Service?
Well, there's still a lot of unknown questions. And frankly, we're dealing with too many unknown questions, unanswered questions from the first attempt in July, when the evidence was quickly cleaned away. The body of Crooks was disposed of. And no press conferences, bar perhaps one from Secret Service, FBI, law enforcement, people just pointing fingers at each other. So too many questions from the July assassination attempt, and now we have this one. And unfortunately, Americans are losing faith rapidly in the Secret Service and their ability to protect Donald Trump. And so he jokingly, Donald Trump posted on social media, 0 for 2.
Right.
He's one of the most recognized and threatened people on the planet. Unfortunately, there are forces, both domestic and foreign, who want him removed, including an Iranian assassination desire coup ever since, Trump had Iranian General Soleimani killed in 2020. So these have to be taken very seriously, and we've got to ask and carefully examine what is going to protect this man.
Is it time for former President Trump to have private security?
I believe so, and others as well. I mean, even after Butler, Pennsylvania, there were serious questions about should he at least supplement his security with private security, if not completely replace Secret Service with private security. I think now that question is even more serious. And, my personal opinion is yes, because there's just too many problems, decades-long problems with Secret Service that no one should have confidence that he can be protected by that agency. They are understaffed right now. They're down at least 600 agents in the Secret Service. But as you know, Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent, as well as former representative and House Oversight Committee Chair Jason Chaffetz, has discussed recently, you know, following the July 13th assassination attempt, if you look at the Secret Service issues, whether it's hiring, whether it's training, et cetera, technology, lack thereof, these go back decades, and it's the same leadership not solving the same problems. And that's why we should not have confidence in this agency right now and not play with this man's life.
And the attempted shooter in this case also had ties. I mean, he had gone over to Ukraine from reports that we're seeing. He had raised American support to go and fight in Ukraine. Do you think that that is at all related to this incident, or do you think it really highlights the threat of foreign actors potentially in these situations?
I mean, it could be all of the above. It just generates more questions that we need answers to. Who did he have contacts with overseas? Who has he met with? I mean, there's a picture of him in front of Congress in the Capitol. Who has he met with in the U.S. Congress? How did he get his funding? I mean, it's just question after question. And so he himself deserves a very thorough investigation. But unfortunately, the agencies right now, whether it's Secret Service or FBI or others, just tend to collect evidence and they are not transparent and they don't answer questions. So it is promising to see that Florida Governor DeSantis announced Florida's going to do its own investigation. So I have a little more faith in that.
What would private security do that we're not seeing Secret Service do?
Well, some of the patterns that we're seeing now between these two assassination attempts have to do with the perimeter. So the perimeter was woefully inadequate, far too small in Butler, Pennsylvania, to not include the warehouse, the roof of which the shooter shot from. It didn't include the water tower, which was the highest point in that immediate vicinity. Same thing for the golf course. The perimeter was inadequate. And so did they use dogs? Did they use a drone? These questions need to be answered. And if they're not using them, they need to use these tools to, one, define the perimeter more robustly, pre-scan, pre-walk that perimeter, and then keep it secure as he is inside that perimeter.
So lawmakers like Ted Cruz have said that Secret Service needs to be treating Trump as a sitting president, having as much of a detail as he would if he were a sitting president. Do you think that that would be competitive with private security, or we need to go private security? We shouldn't trust Secret Service at all?
I think we still need private security. Unfortunately, too many are getting hung up on rules on paper about, are you a sitting president? Are you a former president? Are you a candidate? And the situation with Donald Trump and the threats against him blow all of that off the page. I mean, who cares? The fact is, if you do a threat assessment for this person, he is highly threatened, whether it's Iranians, whether it could be Ukrainians, and any number of organizations domestically, as well as other foreign leaders or groups. And because of that threat, based on reality, not rules on a page, he should have the most robust and qualified security around him.
Does the crisis at the open border, at the U.S.-Mexico border, also illustrate or, put a pin on the importance of Trump having more security? Is this, you've talked about foreign threats. Are you concerned? So far we've seen 2 Americans plan to open fire on this man, but does this tie into the border issue?
Yes, the open border is a real vulnerability. When we're talking about at least 10 million foreign nationals who have been encountered by Customs and Border Protection just while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been in office, plus another at least 2 million known gotaways. Those numbers show that we are very vulnerable on people who are coming in, and they're coming in from 180 countries around the globe, and including known and suspected terrorists, individuals on the terror watch list. Those numbers have jumped considerably during this administration. For example, in 2019 and 2020, along the southern border, CBP encountered 3 in a year of individuals who were on the terror watch list. During this administration, that number has jumped to in the hundreds. And that's just people who were caught. If you're talking about more than 2 million known gotaways, those are going to be the worst of the worst who intentionally evaded Border Patrol to get into the country. And when there are so many threats around the world for against Donald Trump, then we have to be very worried about who's already here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lora. Is there anything else you'd like to say about this incident or about the need for security in the future?
I would just press for more investigation by journalists, more curiosity from more journalists to dig into this and to have the agencies that are involved answer questions, provide evidence, and be accountable to the American people, and give the American public more confidence in the government.
Thank you.
Thank you.